Welcome to 365 Christian Men, where every day we aim to inspire and encourage with real-life stories about men. February 8th, Athanasius. Athanasius, whose nickname was Black Dwarf, was a theologian, a church leader, and an Egyptian political leader. If he had lived in the 21st century instead of the 4th, we would call him an influencer. Maybe chief influencer. For 45 years, he was Bishop of Alexandria, and his congregation included all of Egypt and Libya. During that time, he was exiled, thrown out of the country 5 different times, on trumped-up charges brought by his religious enemies. On this date, in the year 356, soldiers stormed a church, and Athanasius narrowly escaped. Here's how it happened.
When a man changes the truth, that's the act of the devil. But when the truth changes a man, that's an act of God. Early in the 4th century, some false teachers in the church hid behind a veil of religious civility and tried to poison the minds of people who wanted to know God. These lie spreaders fought the one man they envied the most, Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria. The politics involved got Athanasius exiled from Egypt more than once. After one 6-year-long exile, when Athanasius was able to safely return to Egypt, the people of Alexandria were thrilled to have him back. They crowded in from every corner of the city and cheered. Under the Egyptian sun, they ushered Athanasius through the crowds of people, waving palm branches in his honor. As he breathed in the familiar scent of sand and sea, he must have thanked God. He was finally home in Alexandria to lead God's people again. He immediately set to work building up his fellow bishops and caring for the orphans and widows. Most importantly, he warned the people about men who twist and distort the scriptures, like the Word of God says in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 3 and 4. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but having itching ears, they will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. Years passed, and all seemed well, but in secret, the haters were again plotting against Athanasius. It was winter, and without warning, a Roman general named Syrianus marched into town with a large contingent of soldiers, and he gave no reason for even being in Alexandria. Athanasius went out and met him and reminded him that the emperor had promised to leave Alexandria at peace. A deep foreboding enveloped the city as a band of soldiers set up their camp. No one knew why they were there or what was coming, but whatever it was, it couldn't be good. Midnight 3 weeks later, Athanasius was leading an all-night prayer service at the church of St. Theonas. The dimly lit sanctuary was full of people. Suddenly, the air shook. Stomping feet rumbled the ground, and the sounds of soldiers' armor startled the people. Syrianus and his troops had surrounded the church. They intended to overrun the church and to take Athanasius, dead or alive. Athanasius refused to leave the building. Sitting still in prayer, he told one of his deacons to read Psalm 135 out loud. "Praise ye the Lord, praise ye the name of the Lord," the deacon began. But the monks and the clergy in the sanctuary interrupted and begged Athanasius to leave the building at once. "Not until all have left the church," he replied. He wanted his people out safely. By the end of the psalm, chaos was in full tilt as Syrianus stormed the church and the people tried to escape. Some were trampled, others fell to the sword. The scene was so painful to watch, Athanasius collapsed. A crowd of monks and clergy surrounded him, lifted him off his feet, and carried him out of the building. Miraculously, Athanasius escaped the soldiers unharmed. He later said he believed God had covered their eyes. Lies are common in the world today. When you hear them, how do you respond? Are you willing to stand up for the truth? When a man changes the truth, that's the act of the devil. But when the truth changes a man, that's an act of God.
Thank you for listening to today's story. Every day of the year, our hope is to inspire you with real-life stories of faithful men who have gone before us. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Join us tomorrow for another story at 365christianmen.com.